Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar. I hope that you can see me, that you can hear me, and that everything is okay. So guys, welcome, and I see that our chat is already well and alive. So tonight we're going to be talking about this very cool interior. So surprise, surprise, I've already have it ready and rendered for you guys. But tonight we're going to split this into two parts. One part is going to be pure modeling. We have a lot of tips and tricks on arrays and a lot of cool elements that I think that everybody should know at least a little bit about. We're also going to be setting up our lighting, so that's going to be a quite important element. But most of the coolest tricks, for example, the LEDs and the materials, we're going to be saving for our members. So on top of that, we're going to be also adding a little bit more. So next thing that I would like you to know is that this is not the whole scene that, no, sorry. This is not the whole scene that our members are getting. This is the whole scene our members are getting. Partially, it is based on chaos models, so everything you're getting is going to be easy for you to get your hands on. By the way, one thing that I absolutely need to point out here, and I can see that Karolina is with us, this scene was created by our brilliant student, Karolina Lichy. So she's our VizAcademy student, and guys, I would like you to give a little bit of an appreciation to her, because well, this webinar wouldn't be possible without her kindness. So this is something that I really want you to focus on. Also, let's be honest, I had to make some changes so that I will be able to share this a little bit with everybody else, because she was using some nicer models, or let's say different. You said hero to hero, so we're going to be trying to get to the exact spot that we mentioned. Now I can see that hello from Serbia. I'm always excited to workshop starts. Thank you very much, Dejan. Also, I can see that Arun is with us. Thank you so much. But tonight I'm going to be trying to focus a little bit more on our modeling rather than everything else. Also, I kind of need a little bit more light here, so let's just give it a go. And now it's actual time to get us started. Quick thing that I'd like to also remember is that our YouTube channel is going to be available to all of you, but there's a small part that you might also be interested in, and that is joining our members. Currently, our community is growing, and we've got way more stuff coming your way. Another restaurant, a very big one, because this time we're going to be focusing a little bit on caustics. So this is going to be another topic that I want to focus on. Our members are going to have not only the ability to see the members only links and get 3D models, plus lots and lots and lots of videos. My favorite one that I would recommend is how to make a skyscraper. That's really one of my favorite videos, because it's fully made by our members, and this is something that you really will be using in your portfolio. So that's really amazing. Also, consider joining our training, because this whole thing is done by VizAcademy Co UK. That's us. And if you want to become a full member of our school, you have to go through our training to fully understand everything. I know that in the audience I'm going to see a couple of my students, so I would like to first and foremost thank every student that joins our webinars after we're done with the school, but also our members. So if you want to become like them and actually come back for more on our YouTube channel, make sure to visit our VizAcademy Co UK website. And right now we're adding animation as a special section. Currently we're recording extra videos for it, but at the moment it's in the form of just webinars, and it is not just webinars. Those are webinars that I host for our groups, one extra webinar per week. So this is something that I believe everybody's going to benefit off of. We work we have our webinars 3 times a week plus the animation. In the future we're going to have just 3 again, but extra content on animation. So that's super cool because we're constantly creating new content, and everything that's going to be here. I am not sure if we're going to, I've seen some questions. I'm not sure if we're going to be keeping it on our YouTube or if it's going to jump to the members section. This is something that I'm not yet sure. We're going to find out later because I have to consult our admins. So we're going to see what is what. Now, I think this is going to be a very cool idea to also quickly just tell you that 70% of our students, and this is the statistic, is starting from 0, and most of our students are just like you, people that want to learn. Currently, all those images, but those that I've literally created with you are works by our students, so make sure to go for it. Also, look at that previous webinar added here. I mean, this is one of our members' work, so this is something absolutely amazing. And remember that our training has amazing support that consists of multiple seasoned professionals that will help you along the way. I think we can actually see their photos on our website because, well, I need to get into it, but since it's live, I'm not going to wait for too long, and yep, you can actually talk to those amazing people. So our support is going to be available to you 7 days a week, and this is a contact with a seasoned professional. Members, VizAcademy, I guess it's time to get into work. And hello to you too, everybody, and now let's get to work. So again, I love the fact that Karolina is with us. This is so cool. And tonight, as I said, we're going to be mostly focusing on modeling on part 2. After a couple of minutes, we're going to jump into our part 2. So yes, this is the scene that I want you to start. Also, something that I want to clearly point out is that everybody is going to get their hands on this file, and you're going to be able to recreate this building based on that. This is a very simplistic building, as you can see, so there's no surprises along the way, and that is why I chose to skip the modeling part, but I'm going to show you the juiciest elements, so let's get started. Now, the thing that I want to focus on tonight is the environment, because let's assume that you already have your client, you've got something prepared, and hello from Poland. Thank you very much. Welcome to you too. Now let's go ahead and go through the basics. As you know, our buildings are typically going to be in form of ArchiCAD or Revit. That's going to be typically delivered by your client. So the first thing you want to do is always try to settle on some shots. In this case, we're going to assume that our client actually settled on our shot, so we're not going to go totally outside of that scope, but we have to plan ahead, because in most of those scenarios, when you're dealing with your client, you will be asked to create some context. Typically, a lot of people use Google as context, and I'm going to later show you a very thank you very much for the great words. So here's the mug with him. So I've got it for Christmas, and I love this mug. So thank you very much for saying hello to Render. I want to see how to make it better or quicker, and it's a pleasure to see that my work is a part of this lesson. Well, I would say that I'm not sure if I can do it better than you, but I can surely do it quicker. So Hello to you too, Khalid. Now let's continue because I guess time is running out because I've got only 1 hour to create this beautiful environment. And as I said, once we settled on the shot with our client, we're going to have to decide one thing. What is going to be visible and what is going to be our context? In my case, part of the context is going to be buildings behind, because that was something that we definitely seen in our reference. This is something that we have to be aware of. We also need to add a good looking greens. Something that is absolutely crucial for this kind of environment is the reflection. And you can see that not only we see reflections of buildings, but also some trees and other elements. And this is going to be super important for us. So we're going to be planning for a building around this area. Also, we need to build some objects that will create the reflections. So either those are going to be just plates, or we're going to figure something out. Plus, we need the greens. So do we have to build some kind of park and all of its details to just show that? Well, considering that our camera is quite close to our shot, we're going to find out. So the planning phase is very important because at this moment, you're going to be asking yourself and the client, what do they want? And lucky for us, we settled on a very narrow shot. So we're going to assume that this is what we're doing tonight. And let's just start with the most important aspect of the full setup. And that is our border, or let's say some sort of helpful safety wheels type of object, which is going to be a huge plane that's going to be beneath our objects. This is to avoid any kind of future mistakes. I mean, to help us avoid them, because we will inevitably make them. But you want to make sure that this plane that I'm creating right now is going to be something positioned and placed beneath your scene. So let's make sure that it's below every object, but this is so that if we're going to have some sort of light sources or weird elements coming from below, this is going to neatly block them out. And for a city scenario, this is just going to be a 10 out of 10 scenario. So again, it's all about that. We're not going to be doing full lighting tonight, but I mean, we will be with the members, but this is something that I want you to first understand, that just to make sure that the work is a little bit easier for you, just create that plane and move on to the next step. Typically, when you're at this point, you want to also go to object properties and just display this as box, because we no longer need it. And since we're no longer going to be needing it and it has to have some neutral or black tone, we're just going to freeze it and pretend that we will never, ever see it. So here we're going to jump into our first step, and that is environment. So as for that, we want to build that road around our building. So the road wasn't that, let's say, easily noticeable here. So I guess I'm going to refer to the already rendered scene that is exactly going to be here. We need this kind of pavement, we need a nice curb, and we need the road. And I think that the most, let's say, reasonable way to take care of it. Hey, Maisa, nice to have you. It's a pleasure to see you again. So Maisa is our former student as well. So hello to you. Oh my God, I shouldn't be showing this thing as much because that's foreshadowing. Now let's go ahead and create our first object. To base our most of our object on simple and as quickly objects that we can quickly create, I'm going to just go ahead and create this line, go somewhere around here, and I want my road to wrap around my building, but not exactly wrap around it like wrap. I want this to have a similar arch to this. So we're going to go for my favorite tool in spline modeling, and that is going to be fillet. So let's just go for fillet. And here we just apply enough to have similar type of arch. And this is going to be our starting point. And this is not the only thing we're going to be arching, but it's definitely going to help us. Now move this away, and this is going to be for the rest of the road. And probably it's going to be easier that way. Now, This shape is going to be extremely crucial for us, and we're going to be figuring out what to do with it later on, because at this point, to make sure that this is fully useful, we should assume that we're going to be placing some sort of lawn, just like in the original, and a couple of roads and sidewalks and also curbs. So let's make sure to create a simple plane. So plane, that's it, so no surprises there, but there's going to be a couple of twists on this topic, because right at the moment this is just a simple object that we're going to be trying to cut out with some sort of planar object. Also, we need to make sure that there's enough ground beneath this object, and we want to avoid our lawns. So how do we do that, and what's the best modus operandi? So first, I'm going to copy this object as we do it now, and from this point now on, we're going to be either able to add the sidewalk as our shape, or we're going to just do a little bit of a copy of a copy. But I want to be sometimes, don't you guys want to be a bit lazy with 3ds Max and just do the bare minimum, so it looks good, feels good, but you don't necessarily have to do more? This is exactly what I like doing, and this is going to be the most efficient, because remember that once the context is done by your hey Pamela, nice to have you. Also, thank you very much, everybody. Hi from Algeria. Guys, you're absolutely amazing. Thank you for joining. So now I'm outlining this element, and this could be my sidewalk, because this is going to be easier for me to add all the details to, and I think this is going to be almost perfect. So how are we going to do it? We're going to just use this outline again. So I'm just going to copy this part as a road in a second. So I'm going to detach this as a clone, and I'm just building a spline on top of a spline to make sure that it's going to be looking good. Just a quick check if I'm not overdoing the size of it, because I kind of did. So we're just going to try to navigate or look at our element here. So let's go for the shape again. Let's jump for the geometry and outline it in accordance to our viewport. So I'm going to need it to be somewhat here, so it goes a little bit outside, but still I have enough space for the curb and all the rest. Perfect. Now, this was just for the starters, right? So we've got this part that is slightly redundant. So I might as well just remove it and make sure that this whole road or this element just goes all the way below the building, because at the moment the building is fully done and we've got everything covering it. It is going to just be a little bit easier. Here I can also apply another small tricky trick, and that's going to be just an outline of my whole plane. So to do it, and again, I'm trying to make sure that this is going to be beginner friendly. So remember that this is part of being a beginner. We have to learn about shapes. So this is circle. No, honestly, we're just going to go for the easiest one. Let's go ahead and go for the snap. Make sure that the snap is set to vertex and midpoint. And here I'm going to create a new shape. I want to make sure that I also have the set start new shape off. So once I create this shape, it's just going to ignore that one part. So I'm going to have a little bit bigger object to begin with, but at the same time, it's going to be easier for me to take care of it. Hey Adrian, how are you? So nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. So let's make sure to just go through it. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, I would like to remind you that we're going to have a short Q&A at the end of our this evening's webinar. So everybody's going to get their chance to ask as many questions as they like. Now let's select this part, and we're going to be using this for both the curb and the road. Road could be done exactly the same way, but so use perspective view. I mean, we could, why not? But what's going to be the benefit of that, since we're working more technically? Now let's go ahead and continue, because at this point I just need to go a little bit lower, detach this as a copy, and this is going to be my first step towards creating the road. As I want this to be also a curb, I'm going to Control V and create a copy of this whole object. Now the full joke here is that we can just enable this in viewport and make a rectangular road like this, which is exactly going to be enough for what we need. Fun part here is that it's going to have a really nice detail, and we're going to be having a lot of, it's going to be way easier to map on an object like this rather than having some sort of weirded out element. But as you can see, I kind of have it too close to my object. So to mitigate that, I could use sweep modifier instead and set it up. So we're going to do that, sweep modifier. And we can just make sure that instead of angle, I'm going to select a bar. And this bar is exactly what I'm going to do. But then we're not going to have the mapping coordinates. So what am I going to do? Said Mike. So we're going to click on generate mapping coordinates. And that's going to be exactly the same thing as we did a second ago. Now let's go ahead and continue, because I think the road needs to be at least 8 meters wide. So we're going to add 800. And now, as I said, I don't want to go too far with this element, so I'm just going to make sure that we use the properties that we have built into array, and that is going to be just align the pivot. The additional plus of this whole setup is the ability to set this to below the level of our curve that we're going to be creating. It is also worth mentioning that well, I should have done it earlier, but at this point, it's still not too late. We're going to have to go for additional steps, because a lot of times when dealing with this kind of curvature, you would like to have additional smoothness, and you don't want to use turbo smooth for objects like this because it's going to cost you too much time. Thank you very much, Ella. Now let's go ahead and make sure to add this in. We're going to add 16 in our sides, and we're going to go ahead and add the same number here. And this should also allow us to get the sweep modifier to... Ooh, wait a second, that's not the thing I wanted. This step, sorry. So this is not supposed to be that step. Anyway, let's continue. And here we still have the initial part that we also need to add the same number. Sorry for going so many steps back, but here I'm just going to add edit poly as a modifier, so it's going to create a nice surface. At first you can see that it's a simple gray surface that has nothing to offer. But now we're going to talk about those interesting elements of modeling an environment like this. Since we have our base elements that are closer to our camera, and we're going to be also having our safety wheels, at this point this is going to render really nicely, but we have to absolutely understand one thing. This kind of objects will be totally useless if we're not going to have the appropriate mapping. So to avoid starting over or doing some UVW ridiculousness, we're just going to go ahead and apply our physical material. Then we're going to, just for funsies, add the checker modifier, or map actually, and we're going to make sure that the tiling is set to something a little bit bigger, and this way we're going to notice that our mapping is actually following the right path. It's a bit stretchy, so I want to mitigate that. I'm going to have 15 repetitions of this whole thing around my shape. So I want to go ahead and add a modifier called UVW Xform, which is a super powerful thing. Can we make curves smoother after this step? After this step, it's going to be only possible if we're going to use turbo smooth or any other smoothing properties. So I want the V tiles to go all the way. And this way, we're going to have a nicer distribution of our texture, as what we're doing right now is we're using the most basic mapping that's built into 3ds Max. A sweep is going to have a bit better, or in some cases worse, type of mapping, because if we also generate mapping coordinates here, we're going to see that there's a little bit of a stretch, but that stretch is only coming here because I haven't added any fillet into this area. If I'm going to delete this part, for example, you're going to notice that the mapping is way better. Why is that? Because at the moment we're having this very sharp turn. So it would be reasonable to even add a bit of distance in here. For example, I can select this edge, move it further, and then add another fillet in here to mimic the same road. Again, it's optional and you don't have to do it at all, but it's going to be related to how 3ds Max reads this type of objects. So we go back to sweep and we go back to our UVW mapping, and now we can see that we've got mostly good mapping. Again, this is just going to be road that we're going to be randomizing, so it's not going to be crucial for us to have all of that done in one step. Now we're going to move on to the next very important element. Hi Archlife. Let's go ahead and select our first object, and this is going to be a bit of magical. I love this modifier mix up. So we're going to just create a curb. To create a curb in some kind of fashion, I always would be creating a simple box, but I want this box to be a bit more unique, so I'm also going to apply a couple of additional segments to it so it can bend and twist, because as you know, we're going to be probably moving it around and we're going to be doing a little bit more with it, so I want this to be a bit of a birdie that can flap its wings. So to keep that property, we're adding those extra edges, and for a good measure, more. Okay, and this looks really good, but how good? Good enough to add a chamfer to it. Once you add a chamfer, please remember that the chamfer that you've added is going to have the smoothing groups open, and the smoothing groups will create those gradients all over your object. If we're going to keep the smooth whole object, we're going to have pretty bad looks with only one iteration. So my suggestion for you is to go for chamfers only, and we're going to get back to a flatter surface. So we want to make sure that we also have this 1.1 and segments set to at least 2, but since it's a curb, let's just make this 2 centimeters so that element is actually visible. At this point, on top of our chamfer, I'm going to be adding array, because array is going to be great. So here we pretty much just nailed the whole thing. We can now add a bit of randomization if we want to, but that's not going to be necessary. I would still love to add some of it. So let's go for randomization and add the slightest amount of positioning on Z. So the slight amount of positioning shouldn't be more than like 2 centimeters, because it's curb, not some kind, not your grandma's thieves, right? So let's just go ahead and go for 1 or 2 centimeters in here. The array needs to stay the way it is. Now, we've got 2 options. We're either going to click on the magnificent array and just change it to spline and pick a spline, which is going to be great because then we're going to be adding fill instead of count. But this is not going to allow our objects to bend at all. And this is not exactly what I want. So instead, we're going to be able to do a bit of a trick. It's just going to be an informed way of also remember that this is all just the modeling, and during our part 2 we're going to be setting up all the materials. So this is going to be split, and I'm going to be showing you why I'm setting those objects the way I'm doing, but I'm going to give you a hint: randomization and multi-mapping. My units, why insult my grandma? I mean, not yours. I mean, not, okay, that was bad, sorry for that. That was your dirty neighbor. I mean, okay, I take that back. Let's just say that's not my thief. Patch deform is not the modifier we want. We want the modifier path deform. So here, the path deform is going to be the modifier we want. The thing is that at this point, I want to show you something additional. So we can go to utilities and read. Okay, so I would like to also, just talking about our part 2, I'd like to remind you guys that on our YouTube channel, you can now become a member. I just need to show it to you because I don't want you guys to run away. In our members, you're going to also see that there's going to be part 2 coming up. So be ready for this because it's somewhere at the bottom. I think it's on the homepage of our YouTube. Yes, it's upcoming webinars, and you're going to be able to get into it. Day 2, this is the link, so please remember to click on that once we're done with this modeling. Okay, no more insulting grandmas, let's continue. So here, utilities, we're going to read this part and go to the measure. In measure, I can read that the total length is almost 8,000 centimeters, right? So that's a very cool thing to know, because now I can go to our array change this to grid, go to fill, and if I'm going to change this to 8,000, this is going to create quite a lot of objects, but I know that this is going to be enough objects to fill this whole area. And as long as I'm going to select the right path, we're going to get this effect. We absolutely want this to happen, and that's really amazing. We do not click the preserve form because that's not going to allow the object to bend, but if you are afraid that you're going to stretch this out a little bit too much, you can also get the auto, so it's going to give the auto stretch ability to the object, but it's really redundant at this point because we already figured out the best way of doing this. Now let's go ahead and look at our camera, and I think we're going to be able to look at our reference. So we need this kind of concrete, so to be more exact, just like Karolina did, this kind of pavement, then the curb and the road. So we got all of those ready, and we're going to try to move them in order. So let's go ahead and now, again, guys, just a reminder, I want you to remember that the part 2 is right after tonight's webinar. So this evening, I'm also going to be showing you the material. We call it day 2, but it's really part 2, and tonight, right after part 1. So stay tuned, and because we don't really know I'm not sure if this is going to stay on YouTube. I'm just not sure. Okay, so unhide all, we're going to see what we are dealing with. At this point, I want to make sure that my path deform is going to give me what I want. So the fact of the matter is that I wasn't looking when I was creating this box for the curb, and at the moment it makes no sense. And the full beauty of this of the setup that we did is that thanks to the fact that we're adding a chamfer with array with path deform, is that now I can just change the length, change the width if I want to, and it's still going to fill all of those gaps. Thanks to the, let's say, thanks to your grandmas, we've got those elements, and we can now set them exactly the way we want them. So if I need to change some property later on because my client is going to be indecisive, it's super easy, and I'm not going to suffer through the pain of, yeah, I have to start all of that all over again. So this can also be used for any kind of stripes on our roads or whatnot. I mean the path deform, but that's a different story. At this point, I wanted to show you this amazing technique. I mean, it's simple, but it's definitely powerful. But our curb is a little bit too high. So now in path deform, what we can do is set the offset. So the offset is going to have to go through the Z value in my case because 3ds max. Now let's go a little bit lower, but still higher than our pavement, and we want to move this object also a little bit lower because we want to have a bit of a distance. Now this is looking absolutely amazing, and you can see that we've got most of the elements done. If I would actually turn on my material override for a second and quickly try to render this out, thanks to the fact that we should have some kind of environment pre-added, we're going to see that the building looks a little bit like that, right? So let's add a -3 to my exposure, and it already looks amazing. I mean, the road is a little bit too low, so I'm going to just go to my viewport, select that, select this shape, and instead of playing around with any kind of weird movements, I'm just going to go ahead, press my left alt and hold it so I can move it slightly higher. Now it's perfectly aligned, and if my weirdo client is going to ask me to give them some redos, that's going to be super easy. So now let's go ahead and can you download the videos from members? I believe you can save those if I'm correct, but I am not sure. So with all that, we're now going to move on to the more important part, which is our environment. Well, environment or not, you want to make sure that you always use your small safety wheel. So we're just going to go for our Open Chaos Cosmos. And thank you very much for becoming members, Ella and Forgas. That's super nice of you. So you're not going to regret that. And we're going to make this worthy of your time. Now, In our accessories and vegetation, we're going to make this super duper easy for everybody to follow. So first, I'm going to go to my already downloaded assets, and I'm going to point towards elements that I used. First, we're going to go for vegetation, and this is going to be in trees. The exact only tree that I'm using in here is the Mountain Elm Alden 006. This is the only tree I'm going to be using because I want this to be nice and easy, and I don't want to overcrowd my scene with multiple elements. So this is going to be the only tree that I'm going to actually need to pay attention to because it's super important and it's close to our camera. As you can see, this is the effect. But how do we remove all of the leaves from a tree without really doing any harm to it? This is partially materials, but who cares? We're going to, our members are still going to get something awesome out of this. So for our trees to get rid of our leaves, we're just going to do the following. We copy the material, the multi-map. We apply this multi-map that we copied, and we want to go for our leaf material. That's typically going to be named leaf, and it's going to have the MTL in it. So now we add it to our copied material, and the whole shtick is to delete the connection between our opacity and the non-opacity. So this is going to make those elements big and fat, so it's not the thing we want. We want to make sure that it's going to be opacity level 0. So suddenly our leaves are not physically removed, but we're making them invisible. So for us, when working with 3ds Max, especially on creative endeavors, this is just going to be so much easier. I know this is road, and roads do not typically allow for trees to grow on them, but I'm going to place this one here anyway, because I'm going to be moving this tree towards my camera a little bit closer. Now, again, I'm going to make sure that in render settings, I'm going to have a little bit of something extra. By the way, guys, I see that our members are also very active here. So Danilo, thank you very much for joining. Thank you. Absolutely. This is a great opportunity to be part of this community. Thank you all for your help. For your team too. Ella, absolutely appreciate that. Ronan, thank you so much for joining. Guess I'm a bit late in joining. I mean, you're just in time to say hello, so welcome. Let's go ahead and show you what we're doing. So now I'm going to go to preserve the opacity in my material override. So you're going to see that our tree is suddenly bulb, and this is super cool because without it, it would look pretty much chippy, and that's 50% of the effect, right? But now I'm going to do a bit of a trick again. So Shift C, so we can see where the camera is, or I'm going to have to find it, I guess. So hey camera, where are you? Okay, let's skip this part because it's on one of the layers that I have no time for. Let's just move this a little bit further away. So this is going to be a crucial element. So if you want a bit of variety in your trees without really adding any variety, just make sure to scale it up, go to your rotation, set it to local, and rotate it like that. Just swirl it around, especially since this object is already at an angle. So it's going to be a little bit easier for me to change that angle slightly. And now, although in the viewport everything looks a little bit large, it's going to be super easy. Hey Saul, thank you for joining. Can you show us the keyboard shortcuts, please? I guess yes. Give me a second, Rux. This is going to be, that's actually a cool thing that you said. Thank you for it. So let's not click that. Let's, now we're going to be Alt W, Alt W, Alt W. Yeah, so this is it. Now it works. Thank you for that tip. Things start way... So let's continue, and I think some of our supports will be able to answer that question. And remember guys, that we're now modeling the environment mostly. So as I said, we need that building in the background, so we cannot see it here because it's behind the fog, but we also want the buildings around our scene. So let's make it easy, and let's go ahead and go to Cosmos browser. So meanwhile, let's jump in here. Modeling in 3ds Max is really easy, and during our training we try to make sure that we show our students the most efficient ways of modeling objects ever. First we're going to go to assets, all of them. Let's go ahead and type in, instead of trees, I'm going to go for building, and the buildings that I'm using are exactly this one and this one. The reason why I'm using this one is because it's big and it's free, so that's a fair price, and you should actually consider buying it. I mean, it's free. So we're going to be placing it somewhere on the left. This is the bigger building, and my idea is, without really scaling it, I'm going to position it so that it's going to be in the context just like here. So we're not going to be exactly trying to read through the bars in the object, but I'm going to try to make sure that it's going to be in the right position using the XYZ movement. This is also going to be a very powerful tool itself, because at this moment, this object, by just its sheer presence, is going to give me a totally different lighting, and that's a very important thing to have. So I want this to have more context, and I want this to be a little bit, let's say, richer scene. So I'm going to keep it as close as it is right now. The reason why we're adding all of those elements so close is to create a bit of a light blocking parameter, just like a town would around our object. So again, it's all about just preparing for the lighting. So it's great to be part of VizAcademy. Thank you so much for your webinars. Thank you, Danilo. I appreciate it, and you cannot even imagine how happy I am to see people like you, like Forgas, joining us, and while we're live. It's just so amazing. Thank you for it. I never imagined that the members are going to be something that people will actually enjoy. Okay, so now I got this problem, right? My Chaos Cosmos is not opening. Why is that? Because it's already open on a different screen. So if that happens, and for example, you cannot find it because it's super small, a quick tip for you guys: Alt space and make sure to maximize the window that you want to open. That way you're going to find any kind of tool in 3ds Max super quickly. So left Alt and space, and then click maximize, or just move, so that it's going to be a little bit easier. That's more of a Windows tip than 3ds Max tip, but I use it. I actually use it. Now, we're also going to be adding this building behind, not too far, not too close, just like this. I'm going to set up that parameter that I was talking about. And again, this is all for to fake the HDRI. I don't want to use some kind of fancy schmancy HDRIs, quite contrary. I want to make sure that this is going to be easier. So let's make sure that we set up something that's going to be, let's say, covering most of our lighting. But as we already also established, those nice reflections and that lighting is just part of it, because we now need to make sure that we also have the trees that will be reflected in our object. See the difference? See why we set up that parameter? It's exactly for this reason, to make the mood a little bit better. And later, once we also set up the rest of the lighting, so you know the trick with draw the head of the all and then the rest of the all, the rest of it is going to be part 2. And now, let's continue. And here, what I want to really show you at this point, after those simpler tricks, is one super cool element of this pseudo setup at the moment. Once we have once we want to add some sort of, let's say, elements that we want reflected in our scene, or we want to have full control where the reflection is going to reside, my sincere tip for you is to do the following. Let's select the part that, oh, you know what? Smart. Let's try to preserve the glass material, because if I recall correctly, there should be some. Let's preserve the glass materials. Now, once we see the reflections, everything is going to be a little bit... Hello, Shimon. And now let's go ahead and continue, because now you can see how boring the reflections are. Those are the most boring, but as soon as we get to a level where the buildings are reflected, that's actually cool. We can now move the buildings that are a little bit further away even closer to give them a bit more presence in the reflection, but that's going to overwhelm the reflection at some point. So let's just slightly move them. So there's a little bit of that. You see, this is going to be looking great. But now I also want to have those trees reflected. So how do we do it? That's the simplest part. I'm just going to quickly save my scene before we crash it. Can you export the technical drawings with measurements from 3ds Max? Not in the way that you would expect off of AutoCAD or some other software like Revit, but you can get pretty darn close. So here we're just going to be copying those trees, and as soon as I see it, I'm in the reflection and I can see some of it, I'm going to be satisfied, but I kind of don't see it anyway. So what can I do? I can keep this object selected, preferably still in my viewport, because now it's a little bit silly scenario, but I can go to my align, go to place highlight, and we're going to be literally forcing this object to be reflected in our window or our glass. So now I know that if I want this object to be reflected in that part of my building, I need to build something that's going to be in this area. I know this is silly, but thanks to the fact that I just moved it there, it is going to be exactly visible in the reflection of that part. And you can see that it is. And since that's what I wanted, I'm just going to keep it there, but also reposition it slightly so I can use it better. So to not make it too silly, let's make sure that it's going to be standing up, move it, sorry, I'm going to first go ahead and move it further away on the Z-axis. Now we're going to be rotating it a little bit, so it's no longer going to be in our camera immediate view. I know, floating 3, Mike, are you crazy? No, I'm doing a little bit of 3D. That's what we do. We want to fool our viewers to believing that what they're looking at is realistic. And if that's how I'm going to get to that point, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I want to create a couple of those trees in this area. So the reflection's here, reflection is here, and maybe since this scene by the original creator had a couple of more trees that were even a little bit richer in this area, it's going to be it. Okay, let's go ahead and let's make sure to continue. So now you can see that the trees and the environment is a little bit done. Now, just to walk you through some of the elements, because some of you will be asking, how do we do the building? So you've seen my small trick with our curb, right? Imagine that we can do a bit more. Instead of fill, I mean, we can add fill, but we can also set a bit bigger offset. So if we set a bigger offset, we might as well, without using a floor generator, create this part. Also, we can create that part with path deform and add all of those details. Same here, same here, same here. So it's the fastest type of modeling possible. So you're not going to run into any issues thanks to the fact that you're not going to need additional software or any kind of additional elements. Cool, sometimes it's hard to find reflections. See, that's what I wanted to show you. So I know it's the silliest thing ever, and it's better, it works better if you actually use some sort of light source, but this is also going to be very helpful. So now we're going to go ahead and add another aspect, which is going to be, I guess, nobody's going to kill me for this, but we're just going to quickly add this gigantic, ginormous box in here. So I hope that my team is not going to be angry with me for this, but I'm going to show you something extra. Let's go ahead and add a render element in here. So let's go ahead and now render this as an object, make this box a bit bulkier, and it should be covering the first building almost fully. And now, since it's excluded from our material override, I am now free to add a Corona volume material. With that out of the way, I'm going to, Rabina, hey, thank you. Now guys, be like Rabina, subscribe to our members. I know, the members is just something new for us, and I'm super excited about it because now I'm going to be able to not only host some webinars for our past members of VizAcademy, but I'm also going to be able to attract more people to join our passion, which is 3ds Max, and that's something that I'm really super excited about. Now, I know the angle of the sun is going to be important, and we will be doing that later on. So now you can see that the building is visible, and we've got some reflections on it. That's very cool. But what I really want to do here is hide it a little bit. It steals too much attention from my main course, and that is my building. So we're going to go for a distance, something around, let's try 1,000 first. So what you're going to see is we suddenly have this object almost totally devoured by the darkness. Well, in some cases, that's what you would want, insert grammar joke, but now we're going to go ahead and continue with our scattering. In here, I'm going to go ahead and change the albedo. You don't want to overdo albedo, you want to go as far as 250, 210, 220, so not too high. Just make sure that it's going to be white-ish, but not just white. And now, thanks to the scattering, you can see that the fog is actually devouring the building. I think it's a little bit too dense, so we can change it to absorption level distance to 200, and now we're getting to the point I really wanted. Also, absorption should be slightly brighter, because again, it's all about just setting up the right tones. And at this point, we're pretty much ready for the most important element of our tonight's webinar, and that is going to be our Q&A. So guys, if you want to ask me some questions, this is the moment, because we just went through most of the modeling of the environment for the building. Now, I will be creating materials and the advanced lighting for the members to make sure that we can go through all of those details. As for the moment, I'm not sure if we're even going to be keeping this exact webinar on our YouTube, because I kind of shown, although quite simple, very powerful techniques. So I would be probably, we're going to find out. So let's go ahead and reapply this. Now guys, if you have any questions, please how can I join your channel? That's a very good question. Thank you for that. It's just, you make my job so much easier tonight, guys. I really appreciate it. So to become a member, what you can do is go to our VizAcademy channel, and here you're going to be able to just click on join button that is here. Once you join, it's going to be easier. If you cannot see it, you can also open up one of the videos where this talking head is constantly spamming, but that's me, so don't be rude. And here you should also see the join button. Our members, I mean our staff members, will also post the link on our chat, so it's going to be easier for you to see. So it's going to be easier for you to follow. I heard that some people had problems with joining the members section, but sometimes you just have to use VPN. That's unfortunately not something that we can do anything about. It's just YouTube being silly. So check out if you can join our members. Hey, just subscribed and I learned, Vire, do you recommend to switch for Corona? I just started a rendering firm in Romania. So Fargas, I'm going to say this. When I was starting my career, I was strictly bound to V-Ray because there was no alternative that would be good enough. And for me, this was the moment where I knew that I have to absolutely do something to get my skills to a higher level. I have numerous students that joined our training that used to use V-Ray, and they had the exact same scenario. So I would say that V-Ray is by no means lower quality rendering engine, but from what I've noticed, it's a little bit harder to set up. You have to be more of an engineer, a professional visual guide expert before you can render something on a high level. While in Corona, it's a difference between, let's say, simple click and I'm an artist, and something that a lot of people will say a bit of a tedious work. So that's the thing that I would be potentially going for, and that's really going to be something that I don't want you to be, let's say, discouraged by. So again, V-Ray is good, but Corona is gooder. Really, it's simpler, faster, and just I like it more. That's really it. So let's go ahead and now. Oh, Shimon, thank you for joining. Thank you for teaching me more than my college professor. Rox, this was just me going through the very basics. So you definitely need to think about your college again. Well, I'm going to say it. I know that a lot of you will have a lot of problems with your professors, with your college, and this is something that unfortunately is very sad for me to hear. I wish that it wouldn't be so, but at the same time, it kind of gives us an opportunity to exist. So if you're serious about visuals and you want to create some professional grade renders, go ahead and consider joining our training. At the moment, we've got available dates for March. So if you're ready for a real investment in your life to become a professional, I'm pretty sure that there's a couple of our students in the audience that will tell you how the training works and how it is. But to sum it up, it's 3 webinars a week with homework and pre-made videos and lives with me where I'm reviewing your work. On top of that, you're going to get a specific access to our support chat where you're going to be able to talk to multiple professionals plus me, obviously, where we're going to be able to help you 7 days a week. That's something going to be very important for us. Now, will you share the file with the members for the second lesson? Thank you very much, Emin, and yes, we will. So you're getting exactly the file that you just seen in our chat. I mean, during the webinar. So you're getting it to this point where everything is pretty much ready with materials. I mean, the road is also mapped and we've got all of those elements. But I want to show you how the mapping works for objects like this, especially if it's glitching in some cases. Well, it's going to be just a bit of a treat for you. So now, do you share the file? Yes, we will. Yes, we will. And yes, we will. Hello, Mike. Hello, Anurag. Nice to have you. Love from India. Love to you too. So tell us about the tools very deeply. I mean, which tools? Because I'm really going in depth in some cases. Please share details about the course. So Hiren, I just did. So if you have any questions extra about the training, please let me know. Now, fantastic. Did you UVW unwrap the curved corners of the building? That's actually one of those things that I'd like to discuss with our members, but long story short, yes. So I'm going to be showing a quick UVW mapping method for this kind of objects to make this a little bit easier in the future scenarios. So there are a couple of ways how to do it, and I want to go through that with our members. Now, what else? I really enjoy, okay, how did you make the main building? So Ismaili, that's one of those things that we're going to, typically we model everything, but this time I wanted to show you the environment instead and how easy it is to set up those things for your scene, and how important it is to set up those things as silly and as simple as possible. Because see, now thanks to the fact that we created this small area for those objects to corner our building around, I've got the full environment done. So this is why I wanted to do something different, and I'm going to be talking about the lighting and the rest of the setup with our members just for funsies in here. What are the charges in 3ds Max and Viri for India? So I cannot really tell you what it is exactly, but I know that this is not a pun, but there's a indie version for India as well. So as for 3ds Max, it's a huge discount for every beginner. I am having some difficulties in modeling on 3ds Max 2012 as it does not allow to shift move to extrude. Do you think modeling on AutoCAD will be easier for me? My man, come on, you're using 12 years old, 13 years old version of the software, and you're saying something might be difficult. No, you have to update. But instead of that, you can just extrude using the extrude command, and that's pretty much the same thing. Can we use triplanar map instead of UVW? Yes, you can, but UVW is sometimes better in some cases, especially when dealing with when dealing with curves. So yes and no, it depends on the situation. I'm also going to be adding the link for our members. So I think this is going to be something very cool. So members will see it in a second. So let's stop the rendering because my computer is going crazy now. So small thing so everybody can really follow along. I mean our members mostly. I'm just going to do a bit of a post, create a post, and we're going to be now clicking on all channel members. So let's I'm just going to post it here because I need to cut the link and post it. So now all of our members will have access to our to the full thing. So please remember, guys, that members can now download this full scene with all the textures, all the materials, and all the lighting setup. Now this is going to be my wrap up for part 1, and we're going to see each other in 10 to 20 minutes for the part 2, where we're going to be diving into the rest. We're just testing the members, so I hope that you can understand me, guys, that I am still trying to make this as engaging for you, for both our regular audience that I absolutely need to remember about, and remember that this channel wouldn't be possible without our regular audience, but also I have to make sure to help and reward a little bit of our members, just a token of appreciation. Are you gonna teach animation? Yes, Vindictus, we do teach animation during our training. We try to make sure that it's ArcViz friendly, to make sure that it's something that everybody can follow along. I prefer V-Ray. V-Ray is fine. I actually cannot badmouth it. It's amazing. I use 3ds Max for modeling and Unreal Engine 5 for videos, and I find that better. Tell me your opinion. So, Mohammed, I would say that Unreal Engine, again, is amazing, but it's all upside down when it comes to material creation, assets. It has its ups, it has downs, it's a preference of tool. In our case, we prefer going for highest possible quality visually wise. So Unreal Engine cannot deliver that unless you go through the hoops and loops and invest gajillion dollars into your assets. No hate, just wondering, are you planning to post the free videos on streams about the texture and lighting on, or now it's only modeling available for non-members? Ksenia, we will be posting both. We're going to have to divide the content for the members and non-members. There's going to be some juicier parts for members always, but I am not going to let you guys down because you know it's not going to be possible to have a channel only relying on members. So members are still going to be, let's say, a bit ahead, but you're definitely not going to be left behind. What's the membership for? Membership is going to give you an access to some of our videos that our administration deemed to be too high quality for non-members. This is something that I kind of agree with, but at the same time, we're going to be posting more content for everybody. So again, what I want to invite you to is the part 2. So everybody should definitely make sure to reserve a little bit of time, go to our YouTube channel and click on notify me. So everybody's going to be notified and it's going to give us a bit more, a little bit more traction. Any update? Okay. I don't. Okay. Mihmir, we don't talk about that here. Sir, what's your course fee? I'm from Bangladesh. So at the moment, the available dates are in March and the full training is £2,500. I would like you to also remember that this is a 2-month training, 7 weeks in total, where you learn how to become an actual professional. So this is a worthy investment. PUBG, hey, we need some render for portfolio. Can you share some render? I mean, PUBG, this is exactly what you came here for, to build portfolio. So go ahead and follow along my videos. There's way more to do. Can we... What are the main factors for creating realistic 3D? Lighting and good models. When it comes to materials, those are tertiary, not secondary. Once again, just to make sure that you remember to join our members, click on the join button in our YouTube channel and become a member now. You can also see this talking head, very nice guy, and join it here since you're watching right now. So go ahead and click it because that won't hurt and it will help our channel. In the future, we're going to be creating even more content, shorter and longer. We're going to be splitting it, but most important thing that I really want to recommend you is our training. That's where you're actually going to get everything. Now, sorry for asking this, but is it possible to have a discount code for Autodesk Max monthly subscription? Sevan, this is not a bad question, and currently we're in the talks with Autodesk to be the software distributors. I cannot give you any kind of discounts now, but email our main email, so that's going to be info@VizAcademy.co.uk, and we'll see what we can do. I cannot promise anything because we're still in the talks, but I'm just foreshadowing this thing. So came late, can't replay the video at the moment, Harambe. I'm not sure if it's going to be here or it's going to be in the member section. That might be possible. We're still in the talks. I'm trying to make sure that it's going to stay, but I'm not the only person that's that's in the team, so I have to be a team player. Thank you. Textures are my favorite part. Thank you, Ksenia. That I really like your. If you're the Ksenia that I usually talk to, so I really appreciate you being here. Hawkeye, hey, how could you please tell me how much time to learn Corona Render? To learn Corona Render, you need approximately a month. But if you have any kind of experience with 3D earlier, it's going to be 2 days max. But I'm talking about good level, and to become a professional, I again would recommend you to just join our training. How can you send you YouTube video links so you can tell me what you think of the quality of the videos that I make? Mohammed, go ahead and send it to our info@VizAcademy.co.uk, and to be honest, just make sure to add to Mike in the title, and then add some sort of title. So that way, my team is going to give me all the info, and the email is available on our website, and that's going to be wait a second, I need to find it because I'm always a little bit lost on my own website. Oh, look at that guy. It's actually should be here somewhere. So my god. Oh, that's the email. So contact this email to make sure that you're going to get that. Oh my god. Okay, guys, I think we're going to skedaddle. So guys, just so you remember, we're going to be finishing up this work and we're going to be getting to this level in 7 minutes. Just make sure to be there. But that part is going to be for our members. So sorry for asking. Okay, I watched the short video for this and it's amazing. Wow. Thank you, Sujoy. You're so kind. How can I send you? Okay, where should I create my portfolio? It doesn't matter. It should be easy, accessible, and a fast working website. Can I intermediate student do I need to learn more, join the course, or still we can teach you from a beginner level. I had lawyers joining our training with zero knowledge, and you know, lawyers, nurses, just people that had no idea what 3D is, and they finished with flying colors. Is this training all online or hybrid? It's all online, and everybody can attend, and everything in our training is easy accessible. So even if you miss a class, you will be able to rewatch it. But I do prefer my students to be present on my lessons. Every time I see you, you're rocking a white shirt. Do you have a uniform or something? What's your favorite color anyway? Fingers crossed. Adrian. So this is just me trying to be consistent on YouTube, because that kind of looks better, and this is how I like dressing up, and I treat this thing very seriously because it's partially my job, but honestly it's part of the character. But my favorite color, I'm a cartoon character, honestly, because I wear only and only black t-shirts and nothing else, plus random pants. So thank you for asking. Hi, Mike. I appreciate your work. Also waiting for the webinar. Thank you, Ravi. Can you please share some bits for free models or trees and cars? Mimir, no, you just need to do this as everybody else does. I mean, go to Chaos Cosmos and just download the assets. This is the best way of getting free assets for your scene. Everything we did here was and will be based on free access elements, so it's so much easier. Once again, before we move on to our members section, join VizAcademy, become a member, subscribe to our channel, like this video, and the last thing I'm going to say is thank you, Karolina, for giving us the scene to play with it tonight. So once again, thank you, and see you soon on our members section. Give me 5 minutes to refresh myself and tidy up my hairline. Thank you so much.